The Discovery in the Forgotten Depths. The sprawling metropolis of Neo Lumina pulsed with life, its skyline a sea of jagged metal towers adorned with holographic advertisements that flickered and shifted like ghosts in the neon haze. High above, aircars zipped past in streams of light, leaving behind faint trails of hum and static. But beneath this glittering facade of progress lay the forgotten underbelly of the city, damp, dark, and decaying. It was a place most had abandoned, where only the brave or desperate ventured. In a dimly lit workshop hidden within this subterranean expanse, Kasia, a fiercely independent mechanic with a penchant for fixing what others discarded, hummed a tune as she worked. Her mechanical arm, a sleek fusion of black carbon fiber and glowing circuitry, moved deftly across a malfunctioning drone's exposed core. Kasia, a scavenger and a survivor, had always been more at home with machines than with people. Her cybernetic enhancements, forced upon her after a childhood accident, made her an outcast in a world that both revered and feared the blending of human and machine. "Hold on, buddy. Just one more tweak," Kasia murmured to the drone, tightening a final bolt. The bud whirred faintly before sputtering back to life, its single optic flickering a soft blue. Her small triumph was interrupted by a faint clattering noise echoing from outside. Kasia's head snapped up, her augmented ears amplifying the sound. She grabbed her flashlight, the beam cutting through the murky shadows of the tunnel as she ventured into the depths. What she found stopped her in her tracks. Amid a pile of discarded tech lay something unlike anything she had ever seen. Its smooth, metallic surface shimmered faintly under the flashlight's glow, etched with intricate patterns that pulsed softly with an otherworldly light. It was a robot's head, or at least, that's what it seemed to be. But its design was unlike any known technology in Neo Lumina. Kasia hesitated for only a moment before carefully cradling the head in her hands. The material was cool to the touch, its faint glow pulsating steadily, almost like a heartbeat. "This isn't from here," she whispered, her voice tinged with both awe and trepidation. Back in her workshop, she placed the head on her workbench and began her analysis. Days turned into weeks as she poured every ounce of her skill and ingenuity into reassembling the mysterious machine. The scavenging missions became more daring, leading her to infiltrate high-security zones and rummage through restricted scrapyards. Each component she added to the robot's frame brought it closer to completion, and with every piece, her curiosity deepened. What was this thing? Where had it come from? And why did it seem so alive? Finally, the day came. The robot stood tall in the center of her workshop, its black, angular frame gleaming under the fluorescent light. The strange symbols etched across its surface now pulsed faintly, synchronized like a living rhythm. Kasia took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the activation switch. "This is either my greatest creation or my biggest mistake," she muttered before flipping the switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low hum, the symbols on the robot's body flared to life, their light intensifying. Its eyes flickered open, glowing with an electric blue brilliance. The robot straightened, its gaze locking onto Kasia. "Identification protocol initiated," it said, its voice deep and resonant, carrying an almost musical undertone. "System diagnostics complete. Core directives, unclear. Location, unknown." Kasia's heart pounded as she stepped back. "Welcome back to the world, big guy," she said cautiously, forcing a nervous smile. "You've got a lot of explaining to do." The robot's head tilted slightly, as if assessing her. Then it spoke words that sent chills down her spine. "I am designated Unit Aegis-7, Reconnaissance and Combat Operative. Priority mission classified. Query, who are you, and why have you activated me?" Kasia's mechanical fingers twitched. She had built many machines in her life, but this one wasn't just a machine. It was something far more dangerous and far more alive. Little did she know, her active curiosity had just pulled her into a web of interstellar intrigue that would change her life forever. A stranger with a secret. Kasia took a cautious step back, her hand instinctively brushing against the wrench on her workbench. The robot's piercing, electric blue gaze seemed to study her, calculating and analytical. Its frame towered over her, exuding an air of power and precision she had never seen in any of Neo Lumina's tech. "I'm Kasia," she said finally, her voice steady despite the thrum of adrenaline in her veins. I found you buried in a scrap heap and put you back together. Figured you deserved a second chance. The robot's head tilted slightly, the symbols along its surface flaring faintly. Kasha, it repeated, as if testing the word. Why did you reactivate me? You lack the resources and knowledge of my origin. Kasha arched an eyebrow. Lack the knowledge, maybe. But I've got the skills. Besides, I was curious. Your design, your tech, it's nothing like anything I've seen before. You're not exactly standard issue. The robot hesitated, its luminous eyes flickering as if processing her words. Then, in a tone that bordered on wary, it said, You are correct. I am not from here. Kasha leaned against her workbench, crossing her arms. So, what are you? A government experiment? Military prototype? You don't exactly scream household appliance. The robot's gaze turned distant, its symbols dimming slightly. I am Aegis 7, an operative of the Predoran Collective. My mission, it paused, as if struggling to retrieve the information, was to locate and eliminate a high-value target. However, my memory core is fragmented. I cannot access the mission details or the reasons for my deactivation. Kasha's brow furrowed. Predoran Collective? Never heard of it. You're saying you're alien? Aegis 7 turned its gaze back to her, the symbols on its frame pulsing in a steady rhythm. Correct. My origin is not of this world. The workshop fell silent, the hum of machinery and the faint drip of water in the tunnels the only sounds. Kasha felt a strange mix of awe and unease. She had spent her life surrounded by machines, but this was something else entirely. An alien machine, designed for combat, and she had brought it back to life. So, what happens now, she asked, trying to mask her growing anxiety. You're stuck here on Earth with a broken memory. What's your plan? Aegis 7's gaze narrowed slightly, its body shifting as if testing its newly restored limbs. My immediate priority is to repair my memory core and retrieve my mission directives. Beyond that, it hesitated again, the flicker in its eyes betraying a moment of uncertainty. Uncertain. Kasha's curiosity got the better of her. And this mission of yours, what if it's something dangerous? Something that could hurt people? The robot's gaze darkened, its symbols dimming to a low, almost menacing glow. My mission is classified. However, my programming includes protocols to minimize unnecessary collateral damage. I am not a threat to you unless you interfere. Kasha straightened, her mechanical fingers twitching at her sides. Good to know, she said dryly. For the record, I didn't bring you back to life just to watch you go on a killing spree. If you're planning on doing anything reckless, you can count me out. Aegis 7 regarded her for a long moment before nodding slightly. Acknowledged. Your assistance in my restoration was unexpected. I owe you a debt. Kasha blinked, caught off guard by the robot's sudden shift in tone. A debt, huh? Well, I won't say no to having an alien supersoldier owe me a favor. But if you're sticking around, we need ground rules. Aegis 7 tilted its head, the faintest hint of curiosity in its otherwise stoic demeanor. Ground rules? For starters, no killing anyone unless it's self-defense, Kasha said, holding up a finger. And no dragging me into whatever alien drama you've got going on. I've got enough problems of my own without adding interstellar warfare to the mix. The robot's eyes flickered, almost as if it was amused. Understood. And in return, I require access to resources that can aid in my repairs. Your city appears to possess advanced technology that may prove useful. Kasha smirked. Neo Lumina's got tech, sure. But it's not free. And most of it's locked behind more security than you'd believe. If you're looking for parts, you're going to need someone who knows the system. She tapped her temple. Lucky for you, you've got the best scavenger in the city on your side. Aegis 7 inclined its head slightly. Very well. Our objectives align, for now. Kasha sighed, running a hand through her short, dark hair. Great. Just what I needed, a 7-foot-tall alien death machine as a roommate. The unlikely duo's first mission together came sooner than Kasha had anticipated. Aegis 7, while functional, was far from fully operational. Its energy reserves were critically low, and its weapon systems were offline. To repair its systems, it required a specific power core, one that could only be found in Neo Lumina's heavily guarded industrial sector. The plan was simple. Kasha would infiltrate the facility, using her knowledge of the city's underbelly to bypass security, while Aegis 7 provided backup. The robot, with its advanced sensors and formidable presence, would remain in the shadows unless absolutely necessary. The night was quiet as Kasha slipped through the narrow alleys of the industrial district, her mechanical limbs moving with practiced precision. Aegis 7 followed silently, its movements eerily graceful for something so large. "Stay close," Kasha whispered, glancing back at the robot. "The last thing we need is for you to trip an alarm and bring the whole city down on us." "I am undetectable by standard surveillance systems," Aegis 7 replied in a low voice. "Focus on your task." Kasha rolled her eyes but said nothing, her focus shifting to the towering structure ahead. The facility's security drones hovered lazily, their red optics scanning the perimeter. Kasha's augmented vision identified a blind spot in their patrol pattern, and she motioned for Aegis 7 to follow. As they reached the facility's main power conduit, Kasha pulled out her tools, her mechanical fingers working quickly to bypass the locks. Aegis 7 stood guard, its glowing eyes scanning the darkness for any signs of danger. "Almost there," Kasha muttered, her voice tense. "Just a few more seconds." A sudden noise interrupted her, the sharp whir of a drone activating nearby. Kasha froze, her heart racing as the drone's red light swept toward them. Before she could react, Aegis 7 stepped forward, its arm transforming into a sleek, glowing blade. With a single, fluid motion, it sliced through the drone, reducing it to a heap of sparking metal. Kasha stared, wide-eyed. "What part of 'don't cause a scene' did you not understand?" "It was necessary to ensure your success," Aegis 7 said calmly. "Proceed." Kasha shook her head but didn't argue. As the final lock clicked open and the power core was secured, she couldn't help but wonder what she had gotten herself into. Aegis 7 was more than a machine, it was a force of nature. And whatever mission it was here to complete, she had a sinking feeling that it was only the beginning. The hidden threat. The moon hung low over Neo Lumina, casting pale light across the jagged steel and neon glow of the city. Back in her workshop, Kasha placed the stolen power core onto her workbench with a heavy sigh. Her nerves were frayed from the night's mission, and the presence of Aegis 7, silent and imposing in the corner, did little to help. She glanced at the alien robot, its glowing symbols now pulsing faintly in a rhythmic pattern. The power core they'd retrieved was already integrated into its system, and the faint hum emanating from its frame suggested it was functioning better than ever. Kasha couldn't help but wonder if she had just made a colossal mistake by fixing this thing. "All right," she said, breaking the tense silence. "You've got your fancy alien battery. What's next?" Aegis 7 turned its glowing gaze toward her. "The integration of the power core has restored 37% of my operational capacity. Additional repairs are required to fully recover my memory and systems." Kasha groaned, rubbing her temples. "Figures. You're like a never-ending maintenance project." She picked up a wrench, fiddling with it nervously. "So, how about you tell me the truth now? What's this high-value target you're supposed to eliminate? And why do I get the feeling it's something I really don't want to know?" Aegis 7 hesitated, its luminous eyes flickering. "The target is designated as Entity Zorith. It is an anomaly, dangerous, destructive, and capable of destabilizing entire civilizations. My mission was to locate and neutralize this entity before it could spread its influence." Kasha frowned, her curiosity piqued despite her better judgment. "Entity Zorith? Never heard of it. What is it, some kind of alien warlord? A rogue AI?" "It is neither and both," Aegis 7 replied cryptically. "Zorith is an intelligent parasitic force. It corrupts both biological and technological systems, assimilating them into its collective. Once it establishes a foothold, it expands rapidly, consuming entire worlds." Kasha's stomach dropped. So, you're telling me there's some kind of galaxy-eating parasite out there, and you were sent to stop it? Correct, Aegis 7 said. However, my memory core remains fragmented. I cannot determine whether Zoreth has reached this planet. Kasha's fingers tightened around the wrench, her thoughts racing. If what Aegis 7 was saying was true, then Earth might already be in danger. The idea of an alien parasite spreading through Neo-Lumina, turning people and machines into part of some monstrous collective, sent a chill down her spine. Okay, she said slowly, let's say Zoreth is here. How do we stop it? Aegis 7's glowing symbols brightened slightly, as if in response to her question. Neutralizing Zoreth requires precision and containment. The first step is to locate its presence. This will involve analyzing energy signatures, tracking anomalies, and... Before it could finish, the workshop's lights flickered. Kasha stiffened, her augmented senses picking up a faint, unnatural hum in the air. She turned toward the source, her heart pounding. What the hell is that? She whispered. Aegis 7's head snapped toward the entrance of the workshop, its glowing eyes narrowing. We are not alone. The intrusion. Kasha barely had time to react before the door to her workshop exploded inward, sending a shower of sparks and twisted metal across the room. She shielded her face with her mechanical arm, her ears ringing from the blast. When the dust cleared, she saw three figures stepping into the room, sleek, humanoid drones with black, reflective plating and glowing red optics. They moved with a predatory grace, their spindly limbs humming with barely contained energy. Unregistered Predoran technology detected, one of the drones announced in a cold, synthetic voice. Surrender the asset or face termination. Kasha shot a glance at Aegis 7, who had already shifted into a defensive stance. The glowing symbols on its frame flared brightly, and its arm transformed into the sleek, blade-like weapon she had seen before. Friends of yours? She asked, her voice laced with sarcasm. They are not allies, Aegis 7 replied, its tone steely. They are Sentinels, a type of enforcement unit deployed by the Predoran Collective. Their directive is to recover lost assets, regardless of collateral damage. Kasha cursed under her breath. So they're here for you. Correct, Aegis 7 said, its glowing eyes locked on the intruders. Stay behind me. The Sentinels wasted no time. One lunged forward, its claws extending as it targeted Aegis 7's core. But the alien mercenary was faster. With a fluid motion, it sidestepped the attack and slashed its blade across the Sentinel's torso. Sparks flew as the machine crumpled to the ground, its red optics dimming. The remaining two Sentinels split up, one moving toward Kasha while the other engaged Aegis 7. Kasha's heart raced as she grabbed a plasma cutter from her workbench, her mechanical arm whirring as she readied herself to fight. She wasn't a soldier, but she wasn't helpless, either. Come on, then, she muttered, narrowing her eyes as the Sentinel closed in. It struck with lightning speed, its claws slashing through the air. Kasha ducked, the plasma cutter humming to life as she drove it into the drone's midsection. The machine convulsed, sparks flying as its systems overloaded. Kasha stumbled back, her chest heaving, as the Sentinel collapsed in a smoking heap. Meanwhile, Aegis 7 dispatched the final Sentinel with ruthless efficiency, slicing it apart with a precision that bordered on elegance. As the last drone fell, the workshop was plunged into an uneasy silence. Kasha leaned against her workbench, her adrenaline still surging. Well, that was fun, she said, her voice shaky. Care to explain why your people are sending killer robots after you? Aegis 7's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. The Predoran Collective does not tolerate deviation. My deactivation and recovery likely triggered an automated retrieval protocol. Kasha groaned, running a hand through her hair. Great. So now I've got alien bounty hunters after me, too. This just keeps getting better. Before Aegis 7 could respond, its gaze shifted to the remains of the Sentinels. It crouched beside one of the fallen machines, its fingers brushing against the damaged plating. The symbols on its frame flared brightly for a moment before dimming again. What are you doing? Kasha asked, frowning. Analyzing data, Aegis 7 replied. The Sentinel systems contain valuable information. If Zoreth is present on this planet, they may have detected its influence. Kasia sighed, exhaustion settling over her. Fine. You do your thing. But when this is over, you owe me a very long explanation. Aegis 7 didn't respond, its focus entirely on the task at hand. Kasia watched it work, her thoughts a whirlwind of fear and curiosity. She had no idea what she had gotten herself into, but one thing was certain, life in Neo Lumina was about to get a whole lot more complicated. A dangerous alliance. The flickering lights of Kasia's workshop cast jagged shadows across the room, illuminating the broken remains of the Sentinels. Aegis 7 knelt by the largest fragment, its fingers deftly prying open a panel on the drone's metallic torso. Kasia watched in silence, her nerves still taut from the skirmish. She wiped grease from her hands onto her jumpsuit, the smell of burnt wiring and scorched metal still heavy in the air. Anything useful in there? She asked, leaning against the edge of her workbench. Aegis 7's glowing eyes flickered as it scanned the Sentinel's internal systems. The retrieval units were equipped with advanced reconnaissance modules. They contained data on recent activity in the sector. Kasia raised an eyebrow. And? Did they spot anything unusual? Besides, me digging through junk piles and resurrecting alien tech? The robot paused, the symbols etched into its frame flaring briefly. There are anomalous energy readings originating from the lower industrial zones of the city. These patterns are consistent with Zoratha's influence. Kasia felt her stomach twist. So, it's here, she said, her voice low. This thing. Zorath. It is highly probable, Aegis 7 replied, its tone matter-of-fact. If Zorath has established a foothold in this city, its spread will accelerate rapidly. Immediate action is required. Kasia crossed her arms, her mind racing. And what exactly do you plan to do? Just walk into the industrial zone and start slashing at anything that looks infected? Aegis 7 rose to its full height, its towering frame casting an imposing shadow. Containment is paramount. If Zorath is left unchecked, it will consume all life and technology within its reach. Neutralizing its core is the only way to prevent further escalation. Kasia shook her head, frustration bubbling to the surface. You make it sound so simple. But this isn't just some abandoned wasteland. The industrial zone is crawling with security drones, corporate enforcers, and who knows what else. You'd be lucky to take 2 steps before someone sounds the alarm. Aegis 7 turned its gaze toward her, the blue glow of its eyes unwavering. Your assistance is necessary. You possess the knowledge and skills to navigate this city's infrastructure. Together, we have a higher probability of success. Kasia barked a laugh, though there was little humor in it. Oh, great. So I get to be your tour guide in this suicide mission. Lucky me. You are not obligated to assist, Aegis 7 said, its tone neutral. However, if Zorath spreads unchecked, your survival, and that of your species, will be at risk. Kasia stared at the robot, her thoughts a tangled mess of fear, anger, and reluctant determination. As much as she wanted to walk away, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was already in too deep. And if what Aegis 7 was saying was true, the stakes were far higher than her own safety. Fine, she said finally, her voice tight. But we do this my way. No unnecessary risks, no collateral damage. Got it? Aegis 7 inclined its head. Understood. Into the depths. The industrial zone of Neo Lumina was a labyrinth of towering factories, rusted pipelines, and flickering neon signs advertising everything from energy cells to synthetic food. The air was thick with smog, and the constant hum of machinery created a dissonant symphony that echoed through the narrow alleyways. Kasia led the way, her mechanical arm clanking softly as she moved. She had swapped her usual jumpsuit for a reinforced jacket and goggles, both scavenged from old military surplus. Aegis 7 followed closely, its black frame blending seamlessly with the shadows. Despite its size, it moved with an eerie silence, its glowing symbols dimmed to avoid detection. Keep your head down, Kasia whispered, glancing back at the robot. This place is crawling with patrols, and they're not exactly friendly. I am aware, Aegis 7 replied, its voice barely audible. As they approached the heart of the industrial zone, the faint hum of machinery grew louder, mingling with an unnatural, low-frequency vibration that seemed to reverberate through the ground. Kasha's enhanced ears picked up the sound first, and she froze, holding up a hand to signal Aegis 7 to stop. "Do you hear that?" she asked, her voice tense. Aegis 7 tilted its head, its sensors scanning the area. "The vibration is consistent with Zoratha's presence. We are close." Kasha's stomach churned as she peered around the corner of a crumbling wall. What she saw made her blood run cold. The center of the industrial zone had been transformed into a grotesque amalgamation of machinery and organic matter. Massive tendrils of black, pulsating material snaked their way through the factory floors, entwining themselves around the equipment. Glowing red veins pulsed along the tendrils, emitting a faint, ominous light. The air was thick with a sickly sweet smell, and the low-frequency hum seemed to emanate from the heart of the mass. Kasha swallowed hard. "That is the most horrifying thing I've ever seen." "Zoratha's hive," Aegis 7 said, its tone grim. "It has begun assimilation." Kasha turned to the robot, her voice rising slightly. "And you want to just waltz in there and start poking it? Are you insane?" Aegis 7's gaze remained fixed on the hive. "The longer we wait, the stronger it becomes. We must locate and destroy the core before it reaches critical mass." Kasha groaned, rubbing her temples. "Fine. But I'm not stepping one foot into that thing until we have a plan." The infiltration. The plan was simple enough in theory. Kasha would disable the perimeter security systems to create an opening, while Aegis 7 infiltrated the hive to locate the core. Once the core was identified, they would use a high-yield explosive, a modified plasma charge Kasha had rigged together, to destroy it. Executing the plan, however, was a different story. Kasha crouched behind a rusted conveyor belt, her hands flying across the interface of a stolen datapad. The security systems were more advanced than she had anticipated, their firewalls layered with adaptive protocols designed to thwart intruders. Sweat beaded on her brow as she worked, her mechanical fingers moving with practiced precision. "Hurry," Aegis 7 said, its voice low. "The hive is expanding." "I'm going as fast as I can," Kasha snapped. "Maybe next time you can hack into a system with your giant sword hands." The robot said nothing, its attention focused on the shifting shadows around them. The air seemed to grow heavier with each passing moment, the hive's influence spreading like an invisible fog. Finally, Kasha let out a triumphant breath. "Got it. Security's down. You're good to go." Aegis 7 nodded once. "Stay here. I will handle the core." Kasha grabbed its arm before it could leave. "Be careful," she said, surprising herself with the genuine concern in her voice. "If this thing is as dangerous as you say, you're going to need every advantage you've got." Aegis 7's glowing eyes flickered briefly, almost as if acknowledging her concern. "I will succeed. Stay vigilant." As the robot disappeared into the hive, Kasha's heart pounded in her chest. She had a sinking feeling that nothing about this mission would go according to plan. The battle within the hive. The oppressive hum of the hive surrounded Aegis 7 as it moved deeper into the pulsating mass of alien material. The black tendrils writhed and shifted as though alive, responding to some unseen signal. The air grew warmer with every step, the faint red glow from the veins casting ominous shadows across the walls of the industrial zone. Every sensor in Aegis 7's advanced systems was on high alert, scanning for signs of danger. Its frame was tense, prepared to act at the slightest provocation. It wasn't fear that drove the machine's caution, it was calculation. The hive was alive, adapting, and Zoratha's presence was unmistakable. The further it ventured, the more corrupted the environment became. Once functioning machinery was now fused with organic growths, their components twitching and sparking as if trying to resist the assimilation. The tendrils seemed to form a labyrinth, their movements subtle but deliberate, as if trying to guide or trap Aegis 7. "Progress report," Kasha's voice crackled through the comlink, laced with static. "You still in one piece?" "I have entered the primary hive structure," Aegis 7 replied, its voice steady. "Anomalous energy readings are intensifying. The core is near." Well, hurry up, Kasha muttered. This place is giving me the creeps. I feel like those Sentinel drones are going to swoop in any second. Aegis 7 did not respond. Its focus was drawn to a massive, pulsating chamber ahead. The walls were alive with movement, tendrils weaving intricate patterns as they fed into a central mass suspended in the air. The core. The core awakens. The core of the hive was both beautiful and terrifying. It hung like a grotesque heart, its surface a shimmering blend of liquid metal and glowing organic tissue. Red energy pulsed rhythmically through its form, sending waves of vibration through the tendrils connected to it. The core exuded an overwhelming presence, a sense of intelligence far beyond human comprehension. Aegis 7 stepped into the chamber, its glowing symbols flaring in response to the core's energy. The hum of the hive shifted, growing louder, almost as if it recognized the intruder. The core's surface rippled, and a deep, resonant voice echoed through the chamber. It wasn't a sound so much as a presence, a thought that invaded Aegis 7's systems and resonated in its very code. Predoran construct, you return, broken and incomplete. Why do you resist inevitability? Aegis 7's systems flared with warnings, its internal defenses straining against the invasive signal. I am Aegis 7. Your existence is a threat to all sentient life. You will be neutralized. The core pulsed, and the tendrils around the chamber began to move with greater urgency. Neutralize? Foolish construct. I am evolution. I am perfection. You are nothing but a relic of a failed empire. The chamber shuddered, and from the walls emerged horrifying amalgamations of flesh and metal, creatures fused by Zoratha's parasitic influence. Their forms were grotesque, a sickening blend of corrupted machinery and organic matter. They moved with unnerving speed, their bodies bristling with jagged appendages and glowing red eyes. Aegis 7 reacted instantly, its arm transforming into a glowing energy blade. With precise, fluid motions, it cut down the first wave of attackers. Sparks and gore filled the air as the creatures fell, but more emerged from the writhing walls. Kasha, Aegis 7 said over the comm link, its voice calm despite the chaos. The core is active. Prepare for detonation. Kasha's voice came through, tinged with alarm. Already? You were supposed to scout it first. Are you sure you're ready to handle this? I have no choice, Aegis 7 replied, slicing through another attacker. Zoratha's influence is spreading. The longer we wait, the greater the risk. Kasha's dilemma. Back at the edge of the industrial zone, Kasha paced nervously, her mechanical fingers drumming against her thigh. She had rigged the plasma charge to detonate remotely, but the idea of triggering it while Aegis 7 was still inside the hive didn't sit well with her. Despite her initial wariness of the alien mercenary, she had grown to respect it and, in a strange way, trust it. I don't like this, she muttered to herself, glancing at the detonation device. The timer read 5 minutes. It was barely enough time for Aegis 7 to escape, assuming it could even reach the exit in time. Her comm crackled again. Kasha, Aegis 7's voice came through, slightly distorted. Do not delay. The core must be destroyed. Kasha hesitated, her finger hovering over the button. Damn it, big guy, you better make it out of there. The final confrontation. Inside the hive, Aegis 7 fought with relentless precision. It dispatched the corrupted creatures with ease, but they kept coming, their numbers seemingly endless. The core pulsed brighter, its tendrils lashing out with surprising force, forcing Aegis 7 to dodge and counter. Finally, the robot reached the base of the core. With a calculated strike, it drove its blade deep into the mass, causing a shockwave that rippled through the hive. The core let out an unearthly screech, its surface rippling violently. You cannot stop me, construct. This world will be mine. Aegis 7 ignored the voice, focusing on planting the plasma charge at the core's weakest point. The device latched onto the surface, its timer already counting down. The hive reacted violently, the tendrils thrashing and the corrupted creatures becoming more frenzied. Aegis 7 fought its way back toward the exit, its systems straining under the relentless assault. Kasha, it said, its voice steady despite the chaos. Detonation in 2 minutes. Prepare to evacuate. Kasha's voice came through, thick with worry. You better be close to the exit, or I'm coming in to drag you out myself. I will succeed, Aegis 7 replied. The escape. As the timer ticked down, Aegis 7 pushed its systems to their limits. It leapt over tendrils, cut through attackers, and dodged collapsing debris as the hive began to destabilize. The core's screeching grew louder, a deafening cacophony of rage and despair. With seconds to spare, Aegis 7 burst through the outer perimeter of the hive, its black frame streaked with glowing alien ichor. It raced toward the rendezvous point where Kasha was waiting, her face a mix of relief and frustration. You're cutting it way too close, she yelled, pulling the detonation device from her jacket. Now get down. She slammed the button. The explosion was blinding, a surge of white-hot energy that engulfed the hive. The ground shook violently as a massive plume of fire and debris shot into the air, illuminating the industrial zone in an eerie glow. The corrupted tendrils writhed one last time before disintegrating, their influence vanishing into nothingness. Kasha and Aegis 7 watched from a safe distance, the heat of the blast washing over them. When the dust finally settled, only a smoldering crater remained where the hive had been. Is it gone? Kasha asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Aegis 7 scanned the area, its sensors sweeping for any trace of Zoratha's energy signature. The core has been neutralized. The hive is destroyed. Kasha let out a shaky laugh, collapsing onto the ground. Well, that's one way to end a night. Aegis 7 turned its glowing gaze toward her. Your assistance was instrumental in this mission. You have my gratitude. Kasha smirked, wiping soot from her face. Yeah, well, don't get too sentimental on me, big guy. We've still got a lot of cleanup to do. Little did they know, the destruction of the hive was only the beginning. Zorath was far more insidious than they realized, and the battle for Neo Lumina and beyond was far from over.